Look, this is exactly the mess they were begging for, and now that the curtain finally lifted, everybody wants to act shocked. Nobody is shocked. Not one person watching this right now is genuinely surprised. Because when it comes to Naveah, well, the whole timeline has been circling this moment for months, and yesterday, the whole thing detonated on camera like a firework nobody could put out. Before I get into the receipts, and there are receipts, hit that like button for me. One tap is a nod that you are locked in, and if you hype it up, you just doubled the reach, and you just doubled the pressure on the people trying to sweep this under the rug. Because Naveah, and I mean this with my whole chest, is standing on business she cannot back up. And today, we are going to walk through every single question, every single answer, every single tattoo, every single lie, and every single silent stare Blueface threw her way while she was talking to a camera and not to him. This one is not a rumor. This one is a reckoning. Here is the situation. Naveah, the same Naveah who spent months telling the internet that Blueface is her man, her king, her ride or die, her forever, decided she was going to walk into a polygraph office in front of God, the algorithm, and every single blogger with a phone, and answer questions about who she has been sleeping with. Naveah, girl, whose idea was that? Because whoever whispered that plan in her ear was not her friend. That was an enemy in gloss. That was a saboteur in a lace front. Naveah walked into that chair like she was about to clear her name, and instead she handed the internet the biggest bag of ammunition it has ever seen a woman voluntarily hand over on her own live stream. And listen, I am going to break every second of this down, because the math is not matting, the receipts are not receipting, and the story is not storying, and by the time I finish this breakdown, you are going to understand why this is not just a scandal. This is a case study in how the modern internet turns a young woman into a soap opera, sells her the script, and then charges her rent to live in it. Let me set the table. Naveah is pregnant. Late in the pregnancy. Complaining to anyone who will listen that she wants that baby out. And meanwhile, Blueface, or as the paperwork calls him, Jonathan Porter, is over in San Diego lining up shows, stacking kick bags, and looking like a man who is already mentally checked out of the relationship before that child even takes its first breath. Now anybody with two working eyes could see it at the doctor's office yesterday. Blueface was not present. Blueface was tolerating. Blueface had the exact facial expression of a man calculating how quickly he can peel out of that parking lot without triggering a scene. And Naveah, bless her, was crawling all over him, touching his arm, angling for the camera, trying to lock him in a shot that would prove to the timeline that she still has him. She does not still have him. Nobody watching that footage believed she still had him. And the crazy part is that Naveah, in her own head, at that exact moment, was probably composing the caption she was going to slap on the clip when she posted it later. Naveah was directing a movie. Blueface was already writing the sequel without her. But here is the fumble. Here is the fantasy Naveah has been selling. She sat down for that lie detector, and the very first question the man asked was whether she had slept with anybody else besides Jonathan Porter since he came home from prison in November of 2025. And Naveah, cool as a cucumber, said no. And the machine, bless its little digital heart, said true. Now, before you scroll to the comments and tell me the machine cleared her, I want you to slow down. I want you to breathe. Because a polygraph does not measure truth. A polygraph measures whether the person answering believes what they are saying. And Naveah, honey, has convinced herself of a lot of things. Naveah has convinced herself that Blueface loves her. Naveah has convinced herself that Christian Rock is not still in the picture. Naveah has convinced herself that a face tattoo of another man's government name can be covered up with a little cartoon leaf, and the internet is just going to forget. The polygraph did not clear Naveah. The polygraph confirmed that Naveah has crossed the line where the lie became the memory. And once a lie becomes a memory, no machine on earth can flag it, because the person telling it is no longer lying, they are just misremembering their own life on purpose. Then came question 2. Have you had a train run on you? And Naveah, without missing a beat, said no. The tracks. And the machine said true. Look, I do not know what to tell you. I am a grown adult reporting the news, and I have to sit here and say, on the record, in the year 2026, that a woman who is about to bring a whole human being into this world thought it was a good idea to sit in a public chair and get quizzed about group activities. The tracks. Her mama is somewhere holding her chest. Her grandmama is somewhere lighting a candle. Her aunties are on a group thread that has not stopped buzzing since the clip dropped. And the internet is somewhere screen recording the clip and sending it to every group chat within a 50-mile radius. Naveah, the goal of a polygraph is to clear your name, not to give the timeline new receipts to weaponize. When your defense strategy generates more damning footage than the original accusation, you have to fire your team, cancel your PR, and reconsider every single decision that led you to this podcast chair with wires taped to your fingertips. And then came question 3. And this is where the whole enterprise fell apart. Can you speak any Chinese? Naveah said no. The machine said true. Now, why on God's green earth is that question on the polygraph? Peep this. Because Naveah, or whoever produced this circus, needed a control question that they knew she would answer honestly. That is a polygraph 101 technique, and the fact that they had to insert a Chinese language question into an infidelity investigation tells you everything you need to know about how much the people running this test believed her answers on the real questions. They needed a baseline of honesty. They could not find one in the actual subject matter, so they had to import one from Duolingo. That is not a lie detector test. That is an art installation. And Naveah walked in, sat down, and became the exhibit without ever once realizing that she was the one being framed and mounted on the wall. Now let me talk about the tattoo, because the tattoo is where the entire operation collapses in on itself. Naveah, at some point, got the name Cantrell inked on her face. Cantrell. That is not a random name. That is not a family member. That is not a childhood nickname. That is NBA YoungBoy's government name, and every single person on this timeline knows it. And when the internet started clocking the tattoo, Naveah did what women who get caught do. She ran to the tattoo shop and had it covered up with a little green leaf, like a leaf on the side of a woman's face was ever going to pass as an aesthetic choice. It is a silly place for a leaf. There is no botanical explanation for why a leaf would grow there. That leaf is not a leaf. That leaf is a cover-up. That leaf is evidence. That leaf is a receipt with chlorophyll. And every time Naveah turns her head on camera, that leaf blinks at us like a lighthouse warning ships away from the rocks she is currently crashing into. And we know this pattern. This is not Naveah's first tattoo confession. Naveah has Jonathan under her chin. Misspelled. Jonathan is Blueface's real name, for those of you who somehow have avoided this story until today, and Naveah has that name etched under her chin like a permanent marker signature on a middle school textbook. So we already know that Naveah, when she catches feelings, marks herself like a claimed piece of luggage at the airport. Naveah does not do subtle. Naveah does not do restraint. Naveah does tattoos, and Naveah does them fast, and Naveah does them in places you cannot hide with a turtleneck or a scarf or a strategically positioned wig. So the idea that the control tattoo was a rumor, an AI photo, a misunderstanding, Naveah, the pattern is the pattern. The pattern is the confession. When your resume of romantic decisions is written in ink across your own face, you do not get to argue the resume. You get to accept it, or you get to see a laser technician, and Naveah, based on the evidence, chose neither. Here is the fantasy the Naveah defenders are selling. They are selling you a version of Naveah where she is a devoted mother, a devoted partner, a young woman who just wants stability with the father of her child. And I understand the impulse. I understand the desire to give a pregnant woman grace. But grace is not a shield against reality. Grace does not erase a Cantrell tattoo. Grace does not answer why Blueface, the moment Naveah left the polygraph office, went missing. And when Blueface goes missing, Blueface is never missing. Blueface is with somebody. And the somebody, historically, is Chrisian. Where is Chrisian right now? Chrisian has not posted. Chrisian has not live-streamed. Chrisian has gone dark. And in this ecosystem, silence from Chrisian is louder than any post Chrisian has ever made. Chrisian is on a plane. Chrisian is in a hotel. Chrisian is exactly where Blueface wants her to be. And Naveah, at home, cleaning the house with her friends, thinks she is winning. She is not winning. She is losing on a delay. Naveah is not winning. Naveah is being placed. Naveah is being parked. Naveah is the placeholder while the man she has covered her face for handles his real business elsewhere. And this is where I have to zoom out because I want everybody watching this to understand something. The Naveah situation is not a story about one woman making bad choices. The Naveah situation is a case study in what I am going to call, right here on this channel, the male-centered meltdown. It is the phenomenon where a woman becomes so oriented around a single man that her entire identity, her body, her calendar, her live stream schedule, and even her tattoos begin to function as extensions of his brand. Naveah is not a person right now. Naveah is a co-star in a kickstream. Naveah is a supporting character in the Blueface cinematic universe. And she signed up for it, and she inked herself into it, and now she is stuck in it. And the worst part is that Naveah, if you asked her, would tell you she is the star. That is the depth of the delusion. That is the true horror of the polygraph moment. Naveah looked into a camera and truly, genuinely, from the bottom of her chest, believed she was proving her worth to an audience that had already moved on to the next scandal 3 timelines ago. Because let me ask you something and be honest in the comments. When was the last time Naveah did anything that was not about Blueface? When was the last time Naveah spoke about her own dreams, her own goals, her own family, her own plans for after this baby arrives? I will wait. There is no answer. Because Naveah, at some point in the last 12 months, dissolved into the man. Naveah cannot let him do a live stream alone. Naveah cannot let him drive to the store alone. Naveah, as we saw yesterday, cannot even let him check into a doctor's appointment without launching a full interrogation about who he is texting and where he is parking. And Blueface, who we all know is not a man built for accountability, has one setting when a woman gets clingy: evade. Blueface evades. Blueface disappears. Blueface hits the kick button and vanishes into a stream where the chat is more entertaining than the woman waiting for him at home. Because in that chat, Blueface is a king. On the couch next to Naveah, Blueface is a hostage. And nobody chooses to be a hostage when they can be a king with a click. Now, I want to talk about that footage because I have watched it 4 times and every viewing gets worse. Naveah is in the car. Blueface is in the car. And Blueface's son, the little boy, the actual baby who did not ask to be born into the circus, is in the back seat, in a car seat, with his head cocked all the way over to the side like a broken doll. There is no seatbelt. There is no support. There is no adult in that vehicle paying attention to the fact that a small child is being physically neglected in real time on camera. And Naveah, the mother, does not turn around. Naveah does not check on him. Naveah does not adjust him. Naveah is asking Blueface who he is talking to on his phone. Naveah is asking Blueface if he is going to get gas. Naveah is asking Blueface why he needs to check in first before she gets out. Naveah is asking Blueface about Blueface, about Blueface, about Blueface. And her son is dying of neck cramps in the cornstarch-packed back seat. That baby is going to grow up, watch this footage, and know that on the day this clip was recorded, he was less important to his own mother than the location services on his father's phone. Log off. Grow up. Because this is where the internet has to stop giving Naveah the pass it gives her. The internet has spent months dragging Chrisian Rock for every parenting choice, real or perceived. The internet has ripped Jaden apart, molecule by molecule, for the way she handled her kids. But when it comes to Naveah, the timeline goes soft. The timeline gets protective. The timeline says, well, she is young, she is pregnant, she is trying. Trying what? Trying to keep a man who is already gone? Trying to inherit a legacy of chaos she was not even here for the beginning of? Naveah is not trying. Naveah is repeating. Naveah is running the exact same playbook every woman before her ran, and she is running it worse. Chrisian at least brought her own name to the table. Jaden at least brought her own history. Naveah brought a fresh face and a permanent marker and asked to be added to the roster as though the roster had an open slot. There is no open slot. There has never been an open slot. There will never be an open slot. Here is what nobody in the Naveah camp wants to admit. Blueface does not want Naveah. Blueface wants an audience. Blueface wants a stream. Blueface wants a kick check that clears $25,000 a week, and every woman in his orbit is a supporting cast member in the content machine he has built. He said it himself. He showed the earnings. $25,000 in a week. That is not a rap career anymore. That is a reality show. And in a reality show, the pregnant girlfriend is not the star. The pregnant girlfriend is the setup. The star is whoever walks in and disrupts the pregnant girlfriend. And right now, on the other end of a phone, Blueface will not let Naveah see that disruptor is packing a bag. That disruptor knows exactly what time Blueface show starts on Saturday, and she is going to be sitting in the front row, and Naveah is going to find out about it from a random live stream clip because Blueface never had any intention of telling her himself. And this is what makes the Polygraph so tragic. Naveah walked into that office thinking she was going to prove she is the main character. She walked out having confirmed that she is the storyline. There is a difference. The main character controls the narrative. The storyline is what the narrative happens to, and Naveah, at every step, has been what the narrative happens to. The tattoo happened to Naveah. The cover-up happened to Naveah. The pregnancy happened to Naveah. The doctor's visit happened to Naveah. The polygraph happened to Naveah. Even the answers on the polygraph happened to Naveah, because those questions were designed by somebody else, filmed by somebody else, and posted by somebody else. Naveah does not run this. Naveah is the content. And once you become the content instead of the creator, every hour of your life is billable, but you are the one paying the invoice. And then there is Chrisian. Let me speak on Chrisian for a moment, because Chrisian, whatever anybody wants to say about her, understands the game in a way Naveah has never once demonstrated. Chrisian is not doing polygraphs. Chrisian is not begging for public validation. Chrisian is running her own numbers, launching her own projects, and, when it suits her, pulling Blueface back into her orbit like she is turning a dial on a radio. Chrisian does not have to prove she is Blueface. Chrisian just makes Blueface disappear. And every time Blueface disappears, Chrisian has answered the only question the timeline is really asking. Naveah does not understand that yet. Naveah still thinks the doctor's office is the battlefield. The battlefield is the flight manifest. The battlefield is the kick chat log. The battlefield is wherever Blueface is not, and right now, Blueface is not with Naveah. Chrisian does not fight for the man. Chrisian summons him. And Naveah, holding a polygraph printout like a diploma, has not yet realized the difference between a woman who fights and a woman who is summoned. Now let us talk about the internet's role in this, because I would be a hypocrite if I did not name it. Every one of us who watches this content is part of the machine. Every click, every share, every screenshot of that polygraph is fuel in the tank of a system that will chew Naveah up long before it spits her out. And Blueface knows this. Blueface has factored this in. Blueface is filming everything, including the moments Naveah does not know she is being filmed, because Blueface understands what Naveah has not yet learned, that in this economy, your worst moment is worth more than your best. And Naveah is currently generating her worst moments at a pace no publicist could keep up with. There is no PR team on earth that can walk back a face tattoo, a polygraph, and a livestream neck cramp baby all in the same news cycle. And Blueface, sitting in the driver's seat of that car with his head tilted away from her, has already fired the imaginary publicist and hired a videographer. So here is the fantasy Naveah is currently living. She thinks the polygraph clears her. She thinks the cover-up tattoo hides the past. She thinks the doctor's visit proves the relationship. She thinks the pregnancy locks in the man. She thinks that if she just keeps her body between Blueface and the exit will eventually stop existing. But the exit is always going to exist. The exit is San Diego. The exit is Kick. The exit is Chrisian's phone. The exit is any hotel lobby with a signal and a bed. And no baby, no tattoo, no polygraph, no live stream has ever kept a man from walking through an exit he already decided he was going to walk through. Naveah is trying to seal a door that Blueface has already installed a second, secret door beside. There is always a second door. There is always a hallway she cannot see. There is always a plane ticket she does not know about. That is the mechanics of a man who has already left. He leaves in his mind first, then his body follows on a schedule she was never invited to review. Real talk. I want you to look at the actual footage of Naveah in that car one more time. Look at her voice. Listen to her voice. The tremor in it. The pitch. The way every sentence ends in a question, even when it is not a question. Naveah is not asking Blueface things because she wants information. Naveah is asking Blueface things because she is terrified of the silence between them. Because in the silence, she can hear what she already knows. In the silence, she can hear the plane ticket to San Diego. In the silence, she can hear the phone vibrating with a name that is not hers. In the silence, she can hear the Cantrell tattoo pulsing through the leaf like a heartbeat that refuses to die. Naveah is not scared of Blueface leaving. Naveah is scared of the silence that would confirm it. And so Naveah fills every second of the car ride with noise, because noise is the only medicine she has ever been prescribed for a fear she cannot name. And here is where I need to say something that I know is going to get me in the comments. Naveah has choices. Naveah has always had choices. Naveah is not a victim of Blueface. Naveah is a partner in a project she signed up for with full knowledge of the terms. She saw what happened to Chrisian. She saw what happened to Jaden. She saw the streams. She saw the arrests. She saw the tattoos. She saw the babies. She saw the drama. And Naveah, knowing all of that, walked directly into the same house, put her feet up, and asked for a bigger tattoo. Nobody tricked Naveah. Nobody kidnapped Naveah. Naveah studied the syllabus and enrolled in the class anyway, and now she is complaining about the homework. Naveah wanted the fame. Naveah wanted the streams. Naveah wanted the name recognition that came with dating Blueface. Naveah got exactly what she signed up for, and the fine print, unfortunately, was written in the exact same ink she used to sign her face. Now, on the topic of that leaf tattoo, I need to loop back, because I am not letting this go. The internet zoomed in. The internet enhanced. The internet did the forensic work that Naveah's cover-up artist should have anticipated. And the outline of the letters underneath the leaf is not gone. The letters are ghosts. The K is a ghost. The E is a ghost. The N is a ghost. The T is a ghost. And ghosts do not stop haunting you just because you put a plant on top of them. Naveah, if you are going to lie on the internet, at least invest in the tattoo removal, not the tattoo remix. A cover-up is not the same as a removal. A cover-up is a confession with extra steps. A cover-up is a confession with pigment. And Blueface, for his part, is not stupid. Blueface has seen the tattoo. Blueface has zoomed in on the tattoo. Blueface knows what the letters used to say. And every time Naveah opens her mouth to protest her innocence, Blueface is doing the math in his head. Blueface is asking himself why a woman who is carrying his child had another man's government name inked into her face. Blueface is asking himself why the cover-up was rushed. Blueface is asking himself why the polygraph was necessary in the first place. And most importantly, Blueface is asking himself whether the child in her belly is actually his, because in this ecosystem, when a woman starts polygraphing herself, the DNA test is not far behind. Blueface is not saying it out loud. Blueface is not tweeting it. Blueface is not putting it in a stream. But you can see it in his eyes in every frame of that doctor's office footage. Blueface has already visited a paternity lawyer in his mind. Blueface is doing the math on future child support versus present peace of mind, and the math, unfortunately for Naveah, is starting to favor peace of mind. That is the meta loop nobody is talking about yet. The polygraph is not the endgame. The polygraph is the appetizer. The DNA test is the entree. And when that swab hits the lab, we are going to be right back here, on this channel, breaking down whatever the results say and whatever Naveah tries to spin them into. Because Naveah has already established a pattern. She lies. She covers. She tattoos. She polygraphs. She does everything except the one thing that would actually resolve the question. And the one thing that would resolve it, the swab, is the one thing Naveah is not offering. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself what a woman who is genuinely confident in the paternity of her child gains by refusing a 2-minute cotton swab. Ask yourself why the polygraph, an expensive, complicated, controversial device, was chosen over the simplest test on Earth. Ask yourself who is advising Naveah and whether that advisor is a friend or an accountant. Now let me be fair, because I do try to be fair on this channel. There is a version of this story where Naveah is telling the truth on every count. There is a version where the tattoo was a bad decision from an old chapter, the polygraph is legitimate, the baby is Blueface, and the pregnancy is going to end in a stable co-parenting arrangement. That version exists. I will not pretend it does not. But that version requires Naveah to stop performing, and Naveah has never once, in the entire time this channel has covered her, stopped performing. Every moment of Naveah's public life is content. Every doctor's visit is content. Every stream is content. Every argument is content. And a woman who cannot stop performing does not get to complain when the audience stops believing the show. The performance has become the tell. The performance is the evidence. The performance is the reason we are all sitting here dissecting a polygraph frame by frame instead of giving Naveah the peace and privacy any expecting mother deserves. Blueface is going to San Diego this weekend. He has shows. He has streams. He has a kick chat waiting for him. And Naveah is going to be at home, allegedly cleaning the house with her friends, allegedly resting for the baby, allegedly focused on her health. But Naveah is going to be on her phone. Naveah is going to be refreshing his location. Naveah is going to be scanning every live stream comment for a woman's name. Naveah is going to be one text message away from a complete breakdown, and Blueface, for his part, is going to be exactly where he wants to be, doing exactly what he wants to do, with exactly who he wants to do it with. And that is not a prediction. That is a pattern. And patterns do not lie the way polygraphs do. Patterns do not need a machine to validate them. Patterns are the machine. And the pattern, if you have been paying attention, has told us the ending to this movie since the very first frame. Here is the truth Naveah has to sit with. Blueface has never been faithful to anybody. Not to Chrisian. Not to Jaden. Not to himself. And expecting Blueface to become faithful to Naveah in the middle of the biggest streaming run of his career, while she is pregnant and physically restricted, is not romance. It is delusion. It is the kind of delusion that gets ink on your face. It is the kind of delusion that gets you strapped to a polygraph in front of the entire internet. It is the kind of delusion that convinces you a cartoon leaf is a solution. Naveah, I am not your enemy. I am your correspondent. And the correspondence I have to file today is that the mission failed. The mission is over. The mission's flag has been folded. The mission soldiers have gone home. And the only person still standing on the battlefield, waving a signed polygraph like a truce flag, is Naveah, who did not realize the war ended weeks ago and everybody else moved on to the next war without telling her. And let me speak to the audience for a second, because I know some of you are typing right now, ready to defend her. I hear you. I see you. I understand the impulse. But defending Naveah is not the same as helping Naveah. Defending Naveah keeps her in the same cycle. Defending Naveah tells her that the tattoo was fine, the polygraph was smart, the neck cramp baby was an accident, and the man is worth it. Naveah does not need defense. Naveah needs a therapist, a lawyer, and a one-way ticket out of Blueface zip code. Anything less than that is enabling. And this channel is not in the business of enabling. This channel is in the business of telling you what you already know, out loud, so nobody can pretend later that they did not see it coming. Because when the final chapter of this story lands, and it is going to land hard on a Sunday morning, on somebody's timeline, nobody is going to be allowed to say they were surprised. This channel will not permit surprise. This channel will not permit the retroactive innocence. Because everything I am saying to you right now was visible before the polygraph. It was visible when the Jonathan tattoo went under her chin. It was visible when the Cantrell tattoo went on her face. It was visible when Chrisian started flying private again. It was visible when Blueface started counting his kick money on camera. It was visible when Naveah stopped posting about anything except her relationship. Every warning sign was there. Every red flag was flapping. And the internet, and I mean all of us, just watched because the content was too good to interrupt. We watched a slow-motion accident with our phones out because the alternative was to admit we are all in some way part of the problem. And admitting that is heavier than pretending we are innocent bystanders enjoying a fireworks show that has actually been a house burning down the entire time. So here is where I land. Naveah is not the villain of the story. Naveah is the case study. Naveah is what happens when a woman uses a man as her entire personality, uses a pregnancy as her entire strategy, and uses a polygraph as her entire defense. It does not work. It has never worked. It is not going to start working now. The math is not going to math. The tracks are not going to disappear. The leaf is not going to grow. And Blueface, may God bless his shameless heart, is not going to change. Blueface will still be Blueface next month, next year, next decade. Blueface will still be counting kick money. Blueface will still be dodging accountability. Blueface will still be sneaking out of doctors' offices with his head cocked to the side to avoid eye contact. The only variable in this equation that can change is Naveah, and Naveah, as far as we can see, has locked herself out of the option to change. I want to leave you with this. Every time a Naveah walks into a polygraph office, a Blueface books a flight. Every time a Naveah covers a tattoo, a Krisian answers a phone. Every time a Naveah asks a question, a man calculates an exit. That is the ecosystem. That is the machine. And the only way out of the machine is to stop feeding it. Naveah is feeding it. Naveah is the biggest donor the machine has right now. And until Naveah stops donating, the machine is going to keep grinding her up on camera in front of us, and we are going to keep watching because we cannot help ourselves. The machine is hungry. Naveah is on the menu. And nobody in her corner has the courage to walk her out of the restaurant before the check hits the table. Let me tell you something else about this whole situation that has been bothering me since I first saw the polygraph go up. Naveah has, in the span of 6 months, transformed from a young woman with her own name into a Wikipedia footnote in somebody else's biography. That is not growth. That is not love. That is not stability. That is a spiritual eviction. Naveah has evicted herself from her own life and rented a room in Blueface storyline, and Blueface, being the landlord he is already showing the room to Krisian while Naveah is still unpacking her boxes. And when Naveah asks about the lease, Blueface is going to look her in the eye, tell her the lease was month to month, and remind her that the security deposit was non-refundable. That is the real polygraph result. Naveah did not fail the test at the office. Naveah failed the test in the parking lot when she got in the car with a man who was already halfway out of her life. And let me address the babies, because there are 2 babies in this equation now. There is the baby in Naveah's stomach, and there is the baby in the back seat of the car who is not being properly buckled in. And I want to be very clear on this channel that we do not play with children. We do not use children as ammunition. We do not weaponize kids. But we are also not going to look away when a child is being physically compromised on camera in the middle of an adult argument about phone contacts. That is not co-parenting. That is not parenting at all. That is 2 adults using a car seat as a prop. And the child, who cannot speak yet, is filing a complaint with the universe that neither of them will ever hear. And when that child grows up and asks his mother why his neck hurts in old photos, Naveah is going to have to answer for that, and no polygraph in the world is going to help her with that answer. Let me also talk about the friends, because Naveah has a circle, and that circle is not doing her any favors. A real friend would have taken the phone out of her hand before she scheduled the polygraph. A real friend would have booked the tattoo removal appointment instead of encouraging the cover-up. A real friend would have said, sit down, breathe, drink water, put your feet up, and stop making decisions on the same day you make discoveries. Naveah does not have that friend. Naveah has a circle of women who are watching her drown and filming the splashes for their own content. And that is a whole separate epidemic that we could do an entire video on, but I will say this. If you are watching this and you have a friend like Naveah, put the camera down and pick up the phone. Because the difference between a real friend and a follower with proximity is who films you and who saves you, and Naveah, at this moment, is being filmed by every single person who claims to love her. And here is the twist that no polygraph could have anticipated. Naveah, in trying to prove her loyalty to Blueface, has actually shown the entire internet the exact reason Blueface has one foot out the door. Because Blueface does not want a woman he has to interrogate himself out of. Blueface does not want a woman whose defense is a witnessed procedure. Blueface wants a woman who feels so unshakably confident in her own worth that the question never has to be asked. And Chrisian, whatever else you want to say about her, has never once agreed to be interrogated. Chrisian walks in the room, and the interrogation dies at the door. Naveah walks in the room, and the interrogation begins with the door still open. That is the difference. That is the entire difference. And until Naveah understands that she is going to keep losing rounds, she does not even know she is fighting. So tell me down in the comments. Do you believe the polygraph? Do you believe the leaf? Do you believe Naveah? Do you believe Blueface is going to stay? Do you believe Chrisian is out of the picture? Or do you believe, like I believe, that we are watching the slowest, loudest, most tattooed relationship implosion in modern internet history unfold in real time on a kickstream near you? Let me know every single thought. Break it down for me. Hit the comment section like it owes you money, because trust me, on this story, the comments are going to be better than the video. So do not hold back. Tell me what you saw. Tell me what you heard. Tell me what you noticed that I missed, because on a story this loud, no one person catches everything. And if you made it this far, and I know you did because this is exactly the kind of story that hooks and holds, do me the favor of hitting that like button, tapping that subscribe, and hyping it up so this reaches every timeline that needs to see it. Because the next chapter is coming. The DNA test is coming. The San Diego weekend is coming. And when Blueface goes missing this time, and he will, this channel is going to be first on the scene with the receipts, the timeline, and the truth. Before you go, check the video I have queued up next, because there is a Chrisian angle to this whole saga that I did not have room to unpack today, and it changes everything you think you know about who is really running the circus. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss it. Log off. Grow up. And I will see you in the next one.